This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Sometimes you gotta try out a recent trend, and thanks to the average artist, we are trying out these jelly gouache. And what makes a gouache jelly? Well, let's find out. These paints are super aesthetic looking, and I'm very curious as to how they feel, so let's open them up. We already have a color sheet here, but I'm definitely gonna have to be swatching them myself because, well, I love swatching paints. Plus, you never know how accurate these things actually are. So these particular paints come in these little, I like to call them pudding containers, because they basically look like you're gonna open them up and have yourself a little pudding snack. This one looks like vanilla pudding. What flavor will we have this time? Let's see. Ah, yes, the construction flavor. How about this one? This is the, yes, the ghost poop flavor. My favorite flavor, actually. All jokes aside, let's open up all of these little containers. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a disastrous mess. And then we're gonna swatch these paints, so I'm super excited. Oh, and of course we're gonna be creating something. Okay, I've taken out all of the paints and we are left with an ice tray. No, I'm just joking. Oh boy, one down and we are already getting messy. This is going to be interesting. This reminds me also of like opening barbecue packets at like a fast food restaurant to dip my chicken tendies in or something. Oh yes, now this is my color. This is olive gray, definitely a poop green. Oh no, it looks like this lilac has a weird oil buildup on the top, so I might have to give this one a little mix. It kind of looks like, I don't know, lavender yogurt with honey on top. A delicious snack. So this is why I always recommend swatching your art supplies instead of going by the guide they give you. These colors are much different looking, obviously. I mean, let's just talk about that orange red. I don't think so. This lake blue, try again. All right, let's go ahead and swatch these colors because I'm really curious to, oh no. Oh, party foul. What if we just, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, I'm going to swatch these paints, give you guys my initial thoughts on how they feel, and then we're going to sketch some ideas and get to painting. And I think they are mainly a gimmick. I think they actually felt pretty nice. And I'm also really curious to see how they last because it is a gouache. You can reactivate gouache when it dries, but I just don't know that this is the best way to use gouache, so we will see. Oh, there was something I noticed while I was swatching these. Actually, the back of the top has this removable palette, which I think is really, you know, really good and handy, though I don't know if I would recommend mixing colors on something that isn't white because it kind of, you know, alters the way you see the color, but I did think that was really handy, so pretty cool little thing there. Okay, I'm going to get to sketching some ideas because I'm not really sure what I want to paint, but I want to paint something, obviously. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to paint going into this video, so I just sketched a whole bunch of random things. The main thing I was kind of thinking about was water. I don't know if it was all of the blues and greens in this set that really made me want to paint water, or maybe it's been all of my walks near the water. But either way, the sketches are kind of all over the place. I just wasn't sure what I wanted to paint, so I kind of went with a variety of things. And to start off, we're actually going to go silly. We're gonna go very simple. I just wanted to get a feel for putting down a wash of these gouache, a gouache wash. See how much control I had with these paints. Gouache isn't something I'm super familiar with, so I wanted to start off very simple. Wanted to test out layering and gradients just keep it silly, keep it fun, just a very simple paint test. And so I painted this silly snake, did some gradients, did some simple painting with it. And because it is so simple, I thought it would be really silly to just add some black details with a dry sort of paintbrush look. So I gave him some very angry eyebrows. We gave him some arms, some little stars, and gave him some spots. And there's our test. I was just getting a feel for the paints. A silly little snake. So let's get into some actual paintings. Look, we're done having fun. Let's get serious. Okay, not getting too crazy. We are going off into a human character. Ooh. Again, keeping it kind of simple, really focusing on stylization, simple shapes, exaggeration, just trying to have fun, get to know the gouache, get a feel for it. Overall, I really did feel like this gouache was really easy to use. I didn't feel uncomfortable using it, if that makes any sense. It didn't feel like gouache that I'm used to using, or at least gouache that I've tried using in the past. It definitely had its own feel. I kind of felt like I was painting with yogurt, like I said. I don't know if it's the cups, I don't know if it was the texture, but it definitely didn't feel thick and globby like I would normally think of gouache, but it still was very opaque. It mixed together well, it layered well, though I did find it to be just slightly chalky. There were times when I layered where it would kind of spread out into the layer under it, which was a little annoying, but this isn't the most expensive paints. Definitely a little bit more of a budget price. But if you are trying to get into gouache and you do want to test the waters, I do think that this is probably a pretty good beginner set. You have a variety of colors, an interesting container, I guess. Either way, I did have a lot of fun playing around with these paints, and I had a lot of fun with this illustration. Again, kept it very simple. I've been really enjoying just kind of jumping into my art these days without even putting down a sketch or a pencil or any sort of guideline to help me create my art in the way that I intended it. I've really been enjoying trying to keep my art loose, trying to gain confidence in the way that I work and not being so restricted to guidelines and dependent on them, I suppose. And I've been really enjoying that, just the looseness and trying to not be so hard on myself and trying to enjoy it more and just create what I create and have fun with it. Definitely loosening up and not trying to make everything perfect really makes art more enjoyable. I would definitely recommend giving it a try. So with this piece, I actually did intend giving her clothes. I blocked in the skin tone. Again, absolutely no idea what sort of clothes, what sort of pose, nothing. Just kind of blocked in some colors. And then I thought it would actually be really cool if I just left where the clothes would be the paper color and just kind of had blocks of skin floating around. It's an interesting look. Definitely had fun experimenting with this one, and especially the hair. If you guys can't tell, whenever I use gouache, I get really into playing around with the texture of dry brushing. So overall, this one, again, very simple, but I had a lot of fun with it. Definitely enjoying these paints. And on to our third and final piece, which is definitely my favorite, and to be honest, I kind of regret working so small. I've really been wanting to work big lately, but I think I get really intimidated by new art supplies or working with things that I'm not familiar with. What I am familiar with is working very small, though that can have its own challenges. So this one is definitely a really fun piece. Again, kind of going back to the whole water theme and using all of those greens and blues that came into this gouache set. I was very inspired by especially the sort of top right section of these colors. The teals, the greens, they're very pastel and very cute. So I started this painting off with just a blue wash. I thought that putting down a light blue wash would really bring everything together and kind of give it a blue undertone, I suppose. And again, trying to focus on not penciling things, not planing things, just kind of wing it. I honestly had no idea what I was going to draw when I went into this piece, and everything I pretty much decided on the spot. Now this is one of the sketches from earlier, the very teeny weeny little sketch I was working on at the end where there were little wormy guys coming out of a mountain. That was my inspiration, and that was basically the only thing I was kind of running off of. So I started off again with a blue wash, and then I put down some green grass, and I knew that I wanted to create a reflection in the water. So I created this one green stroke across the page, and that was the start of our reflection of our grass. And I just kind of went from there, building on the mountain and the reflections in the water, which turned into floating mountains that sort of faded off into the background. And this is when I really started to like this piece. Of course, we couldn't forget our little wormy guys, so I went in with a light black blue mix and added these mysterious worm creatures coming out of the mountain and the floating islands in the background. How do the wormy guys live on floating islands, especially when they're so big? I have no idea, but it's very mysterious. It's just, overall this painting is sort of a mysterious, interesting sort of landscape drawing. This is the sort of thing that I kind of have interest in when it comes to landscapes. Landscapes I find boring, but if you add a very interesting or weird aspect to them that makes you think, like giant worm creatures coming out of mountains and floating islands, that's when I decide that I think it's interesting. So it's one thing to have a pretty landscape, but you know, just throw in some weird creatures or some silly things here and there, little details that you have to look to find. The top of this painting definitely has all of the details. We have all of the mountains and the floating islands and our worm creatures, and the bottom half of this painting is a lot more chill. We just have reflections in the water, not much detail, very simple. So I think that's really fun with this piece. A lot of detail in one half of it and place for your eyes to rest on the other half. I especially had fun with the clouds at the very end. Usually, as you guys know, my style of clouds is pretty, I would say, consistent through all of my illustrations. And to be honest, I even almost used that same style of cloud in this piece. But then I decided, you know what? I'm using gouache. I like to play around with style, and I created a little bit more of a realistic looking cloud. I'm not going to say it's realism, but it's definitely not as flat as my normal cloud. I really enjoyed it. I think it really pulled things together. And this one turned out really fun. I really like this piece. It's interesting, it's blue, it's calm, it's curious. I like it. So overall, these gouache were a lot more fun to work with, and to be honest, I was a little impressed with them, though my one concern is how they're going to last. I am afraid that they are going to just dry up in a few weeks, but we will see. The tops of them were definitely getting a little thick as I worked, so I will have to make an update video in a few months to let you guys know how it's going. In the meantime, you can keep up to date with both my art and new merch on my website, thanks to Squarespace. Making a portfolio is easy with Squarespace. With automatic image scaling, we've got easy importing, sleek, simple, and beautiful designs, and if you still have trouble, they've got 24/7 email support. I mean, just look at my website. If I can make this, surely who knows what you can do. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/CaseyGolden to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay golden. Bye.